Hello, Pregnancy Help Podcast listeners. We are delighted to welcome you for this great edition. Today we have Dinah Monahan with us, and Dinah is just a powerhouse of experience and wisdom and insight, and I'm so looking forward to kind of diving into this conversation. So, Dinah, welcome. As we get started, can you just share a bit about your expertise and your journey of pregnancy help work?
Yeah, I sort of, well, I came by my pro-life commitment naturally. My mother created the Precious Feet. My mom and dad were back there with Joe Scheidler and the Wilkies, and they sort of started the pro-life movement when Roe v. Wade went down.
Yeah, our
They
elders in the
all,
movement.
yeah, banded together, but each one had a different approach. And and so I was raised in that. That was the culture of our home. And so, anyway, and then I was always drawn to working with young women. And so, for 6 years, my husband and I had women three at a time. We put a trailer on the side of our house that served as their bedroom. That's one of the benefits of no zoning, but having a trailer on the side of your house is one of the problems with no zoning too. Anyway, for my neighbors. So anyway, so that was
Alternative maternity home
yeah, it
program,
was
yeah.
funny. It was I do have a philosophy, you do the best you can with what you have, and what we had was a trailer, and we took three girls at a time in. And we actually took girls with kids, which is it's just a whole new element. Anyway, they lived with us, and we did that for 6 years, and our kids, they grew up with that. They grew up with, in fact, I have a funny story. My daughter, when she was in, I don't know, she's probably in fourth grade, the principal called me in. It's my oldest. And he says, you need to talk to your daughter that not everyone who's pregnant is in crisis. And apparently there was a sweet little aide, on the playground, and she's watching the kids, and she's pregnant, and Harmony goes up and puts her hands on her belly and says, "You can come live at my house. You can come live with us." And this girl is totally confused. Anyway, but that's where I learned sort of the nuts and bolts of it. And if any of you remember, we did a video and wrote something called the Shepherding Family Experience. Sort of coined that actually, because it was more within a family than a maternity home. And then from there, I did other things, always involved in pro-life, but more activism, but I was always drawn back. And so then I started a pregnancy center here in the White Mountains, and that became two and then three, one of them on an Indian reservation. So a lot of our residents are Native American. And then I started the maternity home, and then a secondhand store to support all that. And then I retired about 20 years later. And so, but I was very hands on in the maternity home when we did it. I met with all the girls. I was very hands on in creating the program, in making the mistakes and then figuring them out and saying, let's not do that again. So, anyway, so that's where I got my experience. And then something else I did that, if you would have told me I was going to do this, I would have told you you're crazy. But my husband and I visited Ethiopia, and through a series of God events, it was crazy. We left there having started a maternity home with a young woman who everybody knew, very credible, and God had moved her to do this. And so I would fly back and forth. And let me tell you, running maternity homes in a different culture it's interesting. It's interesting, but it was a wonderful experience. It lasted for 5 years, and we took 16 girls at a time, and every one of those babies was slated for abortion because Messi would go into the abortion clinic and share with them that there's another way, and then take them to the home. So anyway,
Well, Dinah, you are a beautiful witness, both working internationally, kind of working in northern Arizona, and all the programs you've launched there, kind of coming out of the generations of life work. I know in this season of your kind of pro-life journey, you're thinking a lot about shame, and that's kind of going to be the focus we're going to talk about here for the next
okay.
bit. So, just trying to I know that kind of this notion of shame has captured your attention, your thinking, your study, your prayer, and your desire to help shape and heal in that area. Can you just introduce us to the concept, like what's going on and what has made your attention go there?
Yeah, this is a different season for me. I wanted to mention, by the way, that because it ties into this, that as I was running the centers, I really felt that we needed to connect with the young women, and I started Earn While You Learn, and I wrote all the Earn While You Learn, the older stuff, not the stuff my son is doing now, Brandon, but the older stuff, in the notebooks, and I wrote that, and I started the concept actually, and so it ties into what I'm doing now because I saw I would work with these young women one on one. And when you did Earn While You Learn, you really talked to them a lot more. You got to know them. And then I did a lot of work with them and lay counseling. I'm a trained lay counselor. But one of the things that I realized in working with them that there was so much, I'm going to use the word shame, but it's used in a different way. It's not shame for what you've done, while there is that, but it isn't shame for what you've done. It is a lens through which you see yourself and the world, and you feel that you are flawed, less than, and not enough, and that there is something wrong with you that's not wrong with anyone else. And as I started working with the young women that would come in, then I started working with the client advocates. And then I started working with, the volunteers and the staff. And I realized that so many women have this. If you came through abuse, if you came through molestation, if you came through alcoholic, impaired homes, if you or drugs, if you came through a hypercritical parent who just always criticized you and was very harsh, a child can do nothing but come to the conclusion that something is wrong with them that's not wrong with anyone else. And so it's a different kind of shame. Shame for what we've done wrong is not unhealthy. In this sense, then, it brings us to repentance. So we're not talking about that kind of shame, but we're talking about a soul deep sense that something is flawed in me that is not wrong with anyone else in the whole world. God made a mistake and he can't fix this.
Yeah, so I guess I hear you talking really about kind of your core identity, right? The things that you believe about yourself, that having the shame. There is a healthy shame, right, from what you did. I heard you say that. But this is more about kind of that core belief about who I am.
It is
Um,
very much your core belief. And here's the sad part. I see women who are Christians, and this is mostly what I worked with in counseling. I would say my forte, where God used me most powerfully, was with women who were Christians, and yet they had so much shame, and they became Christians, and then they filled in the blanks. I will feel good about myself when I, and so they go into performance mode because that's what they know, and so they start performing, and they still have that sense something is flawed in them, and if someone gives them a compliment, and anybody who has shame knows this, someone gives them a compliment, they don't think, oh, wow, thank you. That's a gifting of God. They think, I've got her fooled. They
mm,
feel like phonies. They feel, and so I found so many women in our churches, and it's women from our churches that staff our centers and our maternity homes. And so many women come to us with this shame. And the problem is they go to church and then they find, oh, here's the prescription performance. If I do this and do this and serve here and do this and do this, but that isn't the issue. The issue is so soul deep and performance only masks it. And then they feel like a failure and a fool. And so I run into this. I can't even tell you how many times and how many of our volunteers, even board members, it was really crazy how much I encountered it. And it's because nobody's addressing it. It's being addressed more, by the way, but it's not being addressed. and it is truly the identity of who you are in Christ. And I have a true story of a woman, a Christian woman, came to me, and her childhood was horrific, horrific. It was Dickens couldn't have come up with it. And so when I told her to imagine the children, how much Jesus loved the children, and imagine the children, and imagine her coming to Jesus as a child, and him just wrapping his arms around her and loving her because she was precious. And she looked at me and she said, "You want to know what I see when I imagine that? I see him gathering all the other children on his lap. And then when I walk up, he points to me and says, 'No, not you. Get out of here.'" And this was a
Mm,
woman in our pews.
yeah.
It is so rampant. It is Satan's greatest tool to keep women. They're saved, but they are held from what they're created to do, and that is to worship God in spirit and in truth.
Yeah. So we all know we wanna help. We could see that in other women, right? And certainly I hear you saying that, both the caregiver, right? Myself, listening
Yes,
to you, I'm like, "Ooh, I've got a little echo of that," that can ring true if I'm not careful, and needing to address it in my own life first, but then also wanting to address in the lives of our residents and our
right.
clients. Can you talk about that journey of, okay, I see this in myself as something that needs healing and attention. Let's talk about first me as a caregiver. What's that journey look like to start to look at that in my life?
Well, first of all, it's there, and I have a whole list of things when you're hypersensitive to criticism, because someone with shame, when they make a mistake, it says to them they are a mistake. They cannot make a mistake. They cannot be wrong. And so when something's pointed out to them, they react because they can't be wrong. Because in their heart, not even their mind, their heart, if I make a mistake, it just proves I am a mistake one more time. And so they constantly, so that's a difficult thing if you have a caregiver who can't be wrong. Um, they have contempt for others. They can have self contempt. They It's called the fingerprints of shame, and in the book, and these fingerprints show up, and so what you find is you're dealing with a shame bound client, 100%, every single one that walks through our door, and you have a shame bound caregiver. And so there's an old saying, hurt people hurt people. And so you find that there's conflict, or you take it personally, so you take things, a caregiver takes things personally, that because they push your buttons. These girls will push, if you've got issues, they push your buttons. And they don't mean to even, but it's just the behavior and the words push your buttons. And so you aren't even aware you have shame. That's the other thing. You aren't even aware you have shame. And I look at caregivers. Okay, I jumped into it, three girls living in our home, and I ran into a situation where, well, the first four girls loved me and they wanted to be like me. You know how that is. I want to
Mm,
start a home and I want to take girls in, and they just want to be you. And then the next one hated me, hated everything about me, my cooking, my parenting. There wasn't one thing she liked about me. And I remember once I was trying to uh, look loving, and I put my arm around her and she threw my arm off. And anymore, by the way, I asked permission, but she threw my arm off and she, "Don't you ever touch me." And I would love to tell you that she left a different person because of my just love, unselfish, unconditional love. Well, here's the reality. I found myself wanting to hurt her. I didn't want to hurt her physically, although, well, I wanted to hurt her because she was saying really ugly things to me. And dadgummit, I'd sit there going in my mind thinking, what could I say back to her? And I'm going to tell her how the cow ate the cabbage. And anyway, and I grappled with that because it didn't fit my ideal of this loving, wonderful person. And so it was me who walked away very different, because when God finally got me on my face and asked me the question, who are you doing this for? Who are you doing this for? And I had to acknowledge that much of it, even though the heart was there and it is what I was called to do, this is part of the equipping. And the equipping is in the breaking. And in it, I had to admit that I thrived on the good words and the kind words and the appreciation, but let them be like that. And my true nature came out. And so I had to really surrender that and grapple with that, and it was a real journey to not take things personally.
Yeah. What's the alternative, Dana? So I heard you use the word shame bound. So what are you trying to bring people to, I guess?
Truth. That's a great question. Truth. All life is lies and truths. And the lies of shame are so pernicious. And if I were Satan, I mean, that he is the father of lies. And so he blinds us to the truth. And so the lie says, I'm not enough. The lie says that person is being critical. The lie says my feelings are hurt and that's what's important and that's paramount, and I have a right to, rip into you. And the lie says that you're nothing, in which case people who feel that way act out. Um, the lie says that you are not enough, that you are insecure, that the lie keeps you so focused on yourself that we don't have time to focus on God or others. And so the walking in truth is the only way. And scripture, oh my gosh, truth is throughout scripture. It's stunning when you do a study on it and walking with truth. And but Christ said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. He didn't say I'll show you the truth. He didn't say I'll lead you to the truth. He said, I am the truth. And if Christ is the truth and Satan is the father of lies, then life boils down to truth and lies. And if you believe, if you have shame and believe that you are less than and that you are uh, just unworthy, not all of us are unworthy in a spiritual sense. I understand that. I'm saying unworthy of the love of Christ. That's a lie. And so, if he can keep us in these lies, he keeps our personal relationships in turmoil, us in turmoil, and always focused on self. And I think that's the greatest thing, is that we end up always gauging our feelings, gauging what other people are thinking, gauging how we're doing. Are we looking loving? Are we looking spiritual? And this is something that women battle. And then let's talk about comparison, because that's one of the fingerprints of shame. And always comparing ourselves. Well, that woman really has it together. Well, I'm better than her. And it's just this crazy in your head focus on self in an effort to be spiritual.
Yeah. That's no, there's profound truth there being spoken. Yeah, thank you for that. So what's the journey look like then from shame to the truth of who I am? What are some of the things, if people know that they see it in their clients, they see it in themselves, what does that journey of kind of rooting out the untruth that
Right.
exists, how does one go about rooting that out?
Well, and now I'm going to talk about what I have created over years and years of working with women. The first thing I want to say, there's an adage, you don't know what you don't know. And so women who have a lot of shame, act out of shame, don't know what it looks like. They're not able to say, oh, that's my shame speaking, because it's just how they are. By the way, it's passed down generationally. So for years, I worked with women, and I created an entire notebook, a whole program that they went through, and it really laid out on a scriptural level and a heart level and a head level what shame looks like, how to identify it, and then how to speak truth to it, and how to combat it with truth. The first thing someone has to be is willing to, you have to become vulnerable and transparent and with God in the beginning. And so I start out with giving God your worst. And I have giving God your worst, and I've given this at Heartbeat and a whole lot of places over the years. Anyway, but giving God your worst talks about how we need to be come to a place where we're willing to go to God with our hands full, lifted up to the cross in surrender with the ugliest things that we try to hide from Him. Those are the things we have to get to, that point where we're willing to say, instead of hiding it and trying to perform for Him, we go back into that very back closet in that filthy house, and we go back and open that closet and pull out the worst, and then walk it to the cross and say, I can't fix it, I can't change it. I can't make it better. Lord, I can only surrender this to you. And so you have to start a journey of surrender. And when you do, what happens, and this is it's very important for house mothers and client advocates, because when you get offended, you have a choice. You either react and then react, then that breeds anger or bitterness or just discord, or you take that and you surrender it. And you say, I can't fix it. I can't change it. I can't make it better. I can only surrender it to you. But in doing that, you are pouring your worst out and allowing Him to fill you with Him. And so when we set out to love these girls, we have to realize that our love can't love these girls. Our human love, our self gets in the way real quick when they trigger us. But what we want is we want to take our very limited, very fragile human love, and we want to pour it out in all of its inadequacy and surrender it at the cross and say, I can't love like that, Lord. You know that I'm bitter. I can't do. Be honest, surrender it, and then say, Lord, give me your love. And eventually, if you do this over and over, by the way, this isn't a one-time fix, but if you
Yeah.
do this over and over and over and over and over, really and truly, Jesus fills your heart uh, with His love and he replaces it, and that's the difference. When we're trying to manufacture our love toward these girls, it just doesn't work. By the way, nice is not a social skill or a virtue. No, nice is a social skill. It's not a virtue. Kindness is a virtue. And kindness comes from a Christ surrendered heart that's surrendered to Christ. Niceness comes from being able to socially interact with someone in a pleasant way until they cross you.
Oh boy, I was taking notes like mad. So that's great. So I know you've developed kind of giving God your worst as one curriculum and
Yes.
this habit, this whole pattern of learning to surrender.
Hmm.
Surrender our inadequacies. I definitely heard that. How does that tie in to the next step? I know you've kind of gone from that piece into this whole idea of healing from shame. Is that the process? Is it the process of giving God your worst kind of over and over again?
It is, but it's just the beginning, because when I take women through the shame process and we start going back into their past, and I'm sorry, you got to look at your past, because your past isn't your past. If you came from dysfunction and you're in pain, your past is your present. It's not your past. And it's there lurking all the time. Sometimes it backs away, but just make a mistake or do something stupid and it's right there on your shoulder. And so when we start unpacking the lies, and I teach women how to challenge the lies. And so, and how to recognize the lies. And so we lay a foundation, and then we go through their past, and then we do. I work on allowing the little girl to speak, because women actually arrest emotionally when they have trauma or extreme dysfunction, and so emotionally they stay little children, and it's the little girl that is reacting if people get too close or cross her, or most women know her if you put her that way. Yeah, I know that little girl, because they're still a little girl emotionally. So physically they're grown woman, and intellectually, cognitively, they're mature enough, they can function well in the world, but emotionally they respond as a little girl, as that wounded little girl. And so we do a lot of work with that. And here's the good news. I have taken all of this. Finally, I have been threatening to do this. I used to tell my kids, I know I won't die because I know God wants me to do this. And so I won't die until I've done it. Well, they're a little nervous now. my,
That's hilarious.
my son said, Mom, you got to make another goal here, because I did. I told him that. I said, I know, because I know that my heart's desire from everything that I do, my heart's desire is that I put this message in a way that others can take it and they can both learn it and heal and then teach it. And I did it. I actually did it. I put it in a video series. So Giving God Your Worst is a video series of 6, and then the other, Breaking the Shackles Shames is a video series of 14. And this is all on Heritage House's Bright Training. But then I also made one to train client advocates how to work with their clients and what does shame look like and how to help them. And then I made one for their clients, which would be the girls in your homes, and it is how to raise children without shame. And so I put this is a huge package. But what happens is when you show this to your client and she looks at that and she says, "Oh man, I've got a lot of shame." And then what happens is the client advocate watched this intro. It was really an intro on shame, but how to recognize it and look at it. And I've gotten a lot of emails that say, "I realize I have a lot of shame and I need help." So then they watch Giving God Your Worst, and then they watch Breaking the Shackles of Shame. After they've done that, if they feel they want to help other women walk through the same thing, I have a retreat, and I actually did a house mothers retreat. Not a lot of people showed up, and that was actually God's hand because the ones who did were profoundly impacted, and they actually were instrumental in pulling together this that I'm doing. It was like, wow, we all sat around talking, and this is the end result. So I started a ministry called Psalm 51. And if you read Psalm 51, that is my heart. God does not desire burnt offerings and sacrifices, but rather a broken and a contrite heart. That's what he wants. And so we started Psalm 51 ministry, and all of this is in the context. Also, it's up on the website of Psalm 51 website. And then when you come to a retreat, further healing happens, but you've already watched the material, because that was the hang up for me. People were coming to the retreat, but I was having to teach the material, and they were walking away, like jaws down, dropped, eyes big, just like, wow, whoa, boom, making a
What just happened? Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
so I thought, oh, this isn't going to work. And so I put it out there. It's all out there on video. And then they come to a retreat. We only take 16 at a time. It's up in the mountains of Arizona. And it's a retreat center. Actually, this is something I did that God just each step of the way. Well, actually, I'm going to regress even further. My husband died 5 years ago in March. And I said at that point, after about a year of grieving and pulling into myself and just walking through the grief process, I said, "Okay, God, what do you want me to do?" 2 months I prayed that, and just conversation back and forth, because I have a lot of options. And, I could travel, I could speak, I could consult. There's a lot of things I had options. And I woke up one morning and it was do retreats. And then it was, well, I don't want to travel, God, that much. I don't. And so, anyway, the next one was, well, build your own retreat center. And from that point on, everything fell in place like you wouldn't believe. And I have this beautiful Robin's Nest retreat home, and we've been doing retreats for 3 years now. And we do retreats for Apache ladies. I just did a second retreat for moms who placed for adoption. Oh, we love them. But I have a whole group of volunteer women who cook and love on people. They volunteer and they just love it. And so when you come to a retreat where you get training, you all have the understanding because you've gone through. And then we work on both healing, clarification, and training you how to use all the tools that I have in that book on other women, what to listen for, how to, replace it with truth, how to do a lifeline, how to work with the little girl inside. All of these things will be addressed at the retreat. And then hopefully it'd be perfect for your house parents to be able to know this stuff, but also take their girls through.
Yeah. When I talk about the work of maternity housing, my little summary statement is belong, believe, behave. And the idea really being first, you create an environment of belonging, right? Whether that's you feel safe here, you feel you're welcome here, you're wanted here.
Right.
But the next stage is really to believe, like, what are the beliefs that she has about herself? And everyone knows that's crucial, right?
Right.
We all have a sense that that's such the important work of maternity housing. And I hear in what you're offering here is really a chance to kind of enter in to those beliefs, so that you can start to talk about behaviors, right? we tend to maybe want to jump to behaviors,
Absolutely.
but but I hear you saying that here's a practical resource to really look at the beliefs that she has about herself and
Oh,
help shift those so that you can start to talk about behaviors as well.
absolutely. In
So
fact, I don't, you can address behavior. We have to be authoritarian at some point. You can address it with rules and they need to knuckle down. But how much better to have an understanding of where she's coming from so that we can get in with her and help her understand why she behaves the way she behaves. And that's what I do. I mean, that's the work that I do. So for instance, when I was a client advocate, I would tell girls they're beautiful and they're talented and all the affirmations we're supposed to give. Well, when I figured out about shame, what I realized is they weren't hearing it the same. Especially the beautiful part, and oh, I hear so often, even among client advocates up here, you know, oh, it's such a tragedy. She's so beautiful. Well, first of all, let's take that apart. We should never be saying that. That places her value on her beauty. And, because she's more beautiful, it's more tragic. I don't think so. But those are just things that we say. But then when we say to her, you are so beautiful, you can be anything you want, blah, blah, blah. And she's coming from a place of shame. You want to know what she hears? Huh, I've got you fooled. You don't know me. Because she doesn't feel beautiful. She feels utterly and completely flawed and fundamentally flawed. There's no fixing her. And she is a mistake. So when you tell her that she's beautiful, she just thinks you've got her fooled. It's not a help. Actually, it's a hindrance. It's feeding the lie. And we'd never know that.
yeah, no, it's super insightful. Yeah, super insightful. Well, Dinah, we are almost at time, and I want to give you the opportunity to just close. So much of what you said has been so encouraging for those in the movement, and to help kind of give something really practical to really speak to her heart and her head, and what a gift that is. And I'm so glad you've captured it all and put it together in a method that we can learn from and teach others. And I know additional opportunities to think about those things will be coming through. Maybe we'll plan another retreat. But would love to have you close with just for those that are in the movement, maybe those that heard, echoes of all this kind of resonate in their own experience, the fingerprints, right? They
Right.
recognize, hey, I've got some of those fingerprints. Maybe just to close with some encouragement for them as they do this work.
Well, first of all, I can tell you where they can go, where this material is housed. If you go to the website www.psalm, Psalm, FIFTY dot one. So all you got to put in Psalm 50.1, all spelled out. And it'll bring up our Psalm 51 website. And then if you go to resources and you will see the videos, and one of them is giving God your worst, and you can download the books or you can order them from us, but you can download the books that go with it. It's by chapter, and there's 6 chapters there, and after you watch that, they can then watch Breaking the Shackles of Shame. It's all there. It's free. The downloads are free. It's there. My heart's desire is to get this information out and then get other women teaching it, training other women. And then the next thing is poke around the website, look at what we're doing, what we're about. On the left or on the bottom, you can register or subscribe, and I've got blogs and uh, other things on there. And there's also a place, if you look at About Us on the very bottom, it says Robin's Nest. You can see where the retreat is. The next thing, if they feel they want to be able to teach this material, sign up for a retreat. We are full. We put this out, a month ago? And in 1 month, our first 3 retreats are full. Uh,
Oh, praise
yeah,
God. How
March,
exciting.
April, and May. We've got space in
Wow.
June, July, August. You come on Thursday morning. Wednesday we pick you up at the airport if you fly in. By the way, it costs $25 and for you to come to the retreat. I'm truly, my heart is in just getting women here. And so, anyway, so then they can come to the retreat, and you leave different than you came. That's what I can tell you. But you are loved on, fed, and so all of this is available to all your house parents, to all your house mothers. I don't work with men. We are going to come up with a man's version of this at some point, but I work with women. I understand women, and I don't understand men. So I work with women, and so all the house mothers, Mary, if you want to plan a retreat just for house mothers, then you talk to your ladies and let's do it. Let's do 2 retreats. I can take 16 women. I will teach all of this, expound on it, love on you, laugh with you, share my mistakes so you won't have to make those too. Absolutely, it'll be a turning point in their lives.
Oh, sounds like a beautiful opportunity. Thank you for that. And we'll definitely add those links so that they're easy for people to access. Dinah, thank you for sharing of your own journey and then sharing of kind of what the Lord has brought you through as you've had to look at these things in your own life and work with women. Yeah, just thank you for giving that to the world. What a gift that is. Any closing thoughts as we sign off here?
Yeah, what a journey we're on. Don't you love it? It's just
It is exciting. It's good, messy, hard work.
it's good,
I
messy.
love the interplay of caregiver and care receiver, the client, right?
Oh,
That
yeah.
that so much it brings out in us, and we're all on our own journey as we try and love and serve these women. So,
Yeah,
and you
but
spoke to that
we
quite
go
eloquently.
into it thinking there's a part of us, well, I'm the house mother, I'm the caregiver, and they're the ones needing help. It's a humbling, a good humbling to realize that in some ways we're all in the same basket here. And as we help them, God also brings us along to help us.
Yeah, beautifully said. Well, thank you so much, Dinah. We will sign off. Podcast listeners, we'll see you on the next edition of Pregnancy Help Podcast. Dinah, thank you so much. Grateful for it. You're a treasure trove. So blessings on everyone.
All right. God bless, Mary. Bye bye.